Happy Halloween. Leave now while you still can.
Leave now before Master finds you.
Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Who is that knocking at my door? Be gone with you.
Hello everyone, today's video I'll be talking about Brides of Dracula from 1960. Again, just like Curse of Frankenstein's success, Hammer thought, with the huge success of Horror of Dracula, let's franchise Dracula 2. Despite this movie as a sequel to Horror of Dracula, the movie's more of a spin-off movie to Van Helsing. The movie is once again directed by Terence Fisher and written by Jimmy Sangster. Despite Jimmy Sangster wrote the movie, when Peter Cushing decided to reprise his role as Van Helsing for this movie, they hired writers Peter Bryan and Edward Percy to rewrite some dialogue that Peter Cushing did not like at all. When they were in the process of making this movie, the original title of this movie was originally to be called The Disciples of Dracula. The movie's a little bit off continuity. Van Helsing said in the last movie that vampires turn into bats is a fantasy, and yet in this movie, the poor man's version of Dracula turns into a bat in this movie. Even though I do like this movie, the other thing that is misleading about this movie's title is, we do see Dracula's brides, but they are not Dracula's brides, they are the stand-in for this new Dracula character actor. It's assumed that this poor man's Dracula was bitten by Dracula, and that's why his mother had him chained up. Dracula's not even in this movie. Just like Bride of Frankenstein, the brides don't do much, they stand around waiting to suck human blood, and they don't have much screen time. The substitute Dracula character is lame. He's not cannibalistic and bloody as Christopher Lee was. I didn't like this version of Dracula. Watching this movie made me wish Christopher Lee was in this movie playing Dracula. David Peel is very forgetful as the villain in this movie. His character is not Dracula, he is the Baron Meinster. The scene where he reveals to Marianne that he is a vampire, I had a hard time taking him seriously. This lame Dracula was such a wannabe and he tried too hard. If Christopher Lee was in this movie, it could have been a perfect Hammer Dracula sequel. From what I've read, that Christopher Lee was asked to be in this movie, but he said no. But writer Jimmy Sangster said that if Lee was in this movie as Dracula, he would not have shown up until the end of the movie. Once again, Peter Cushing does a great job in this movie as Van Helsing. I like the character of Marianne. She was kind, sweet. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time, how she gets involved with the lame Dracula actor in this movie, and made a mistake of letting him go, not knowing that he was a vampire. When she escapes the castle, I like when she runs into Van Helsing. He's kind, friendly to her. They become friends. Van Helsing is the only one who believed her story because of his experience, expertise on fighting vampires. I like when Van Helsing stands up for her when she's late for her interview at the school she wants to work at. The head dean of the school was such a jerk and a sexist bastard. When she's under the spell of lame Dracula, yes, that's what I keep calling throughout this entire video, because he was lame. She's engaged to him and Van Helsing asks, "Who's the lucky man?" And when she says it's Baron Meinster, he sees the connection and takes action. You root for Van Helsing to stop the marriage, making sure Marianne does not end up as one of Baron's vampire brides. Marianne was played by Yvonne Monlor. I'm not sure I'm saying that name right. I have to say, she was a very beautiful woman. The Baroness's strange, complicated relationship with his mother made me think of Psycho with Norman Bates and his mother, but done as vampires. At the same time, the mother had a good reason for her son Baron being chained up. Crazy how she encouraged him to hang out with the wrong crowd, how he ends up as a vampire. What a bad mother. When Baron kills his mother, again, a little hint of incest. I don't know why, when I was rewatching this movie, Baron's mother, Madame la Baronne, looked like Cinderella's stepmother, Lady Tremaine, as she came to live action out of the picture. Greta the maid explains how Marianne la Baronne spoiled her son. This character was kind of a person who served under Madame Wings for a long time and was burnt out from the job. Seeing her laugh shows the job has gone to her psychologically. But Greta sounded like she was a better mother caretaker for Baron than his real mother when you think about it. This is what Van Helsing from 2004 with Hugh Jackman should have been done. Take notes on that, Stephen Summers. I'll admit, I've never really seen the movie. I've only seen parts of that movie. I've never seen the whole movie from start to finish. From what I've heard, it's not good at all. And here's a little bit of a funny story. One of my dad's coworkers at his job says that anytime he can't fall asleep because of his insomnia, he puts on the 2004 Hugh Jackman Van Helsing to make him fall asleep. Hey, whatever works. In this movie, we see how Van Helsing was bitten by the lame Dracula, and he cures himself with holy water and a welding fire and whiskey. I remember when I rewatched this movie back in 2020 with my friend Chris, where I did a review with him on his channel. I asked myself, how come this has never been used in future vampire movies or TV shows to cure and stop being a vampire? But as my friend Christian said, Van Helsing was in the early stages. It was an intervention to help him stop himself from becoming a vampire, which does make sense. I like the ending, but again, not as epic as Horror of Dracula, but it's still a good one. Seeing the Baron and his brides get burned in the windmill reminded me of Universal's Frankenstein from 1931. Well, not mentioned or shown if Mary ends up with Van Helsing, but I would not be surprised. Van Helsing deserves love. And also, Mary deserved a better person, that's for sure. From reading about the making of this movie, Hammer originally wanted this movie to end with a swarm of bats attacking Baron and his brides, but it would have cost a lot of money, so instead they just went with what they had and reused this idea 3 years later for The Kiss of the Vampire. Also, from reading about the making of this film, it had a lot of crazy production problems. It was originally supposed to be an erotic film, but the British censorship would not allow it. The film works fine not being an erotica film. While not a perfect movie, no Christopher Lee, but it's still a good solid spin-off sequel to Hammer Dracula, and works very well and okay. Still a satisfying film for me. Fun, action-packed. That was my review of The Brides of Dracula. Stay tuned for tomorrow for Dracula Prince of Darkness. See you tomorrow.